Get ready for another video in Alex's garage. Alright, quick little video here on installing the center console on a 1977 MGB. Initially I was just going to throw this together and just move on to the next step, but I realized that there was a number of tricks to this and some things that have to be done in a specific sequence. So I figured it'd be a good opportunity to catch it on a video. Hopefully I haven't gone too far. I don't want to take it apart again to get to the nitty-gritty here, but hopefully I can catch it so that you can learn from my mistakes or from the observations that I've made. So center console here normally has a cigarette lighter right here, but I've replaced it with my overdrive switch. You can see I did a previous video on that. And it has the heater control for the internal cabin heater and the fan control right over here. So these controls are run by cables. You can see right back in here there's a cable that runs, and then back here there's a mechanism with a cable that runs. This cable is connected to the heater box, and you can't move this cable. It won't give you any slack. This cable runs to the valve on the intake manifold that controls the flow of coolant into the heater core. So you can disconnect this cable and get some slack, and I've done that in this case. So you can turn the whole thing kind of to give you a little bit of room to work from this backside if you need. It gives you just a little bit more room to work. Now, real quick, there's a couple of idiot lights here. This is the fasten seatbelt light. This is, I don't know whatever light this is. I think it's just like an ignition light. It doesn't have any words on it, but it does light up. On the wiring harness that goes in this back area here, you can see these red and white wires. The red and white wires, there's two pair of those. They go to the lamps that light up these control surfaces right in here. You'll see on the bottom down there, see if I can get a good look at that. See that right there? That is where the light bulb goes in for that lamp, and you can see there's a red and white one wire pair going into that to light that lamp. The other lamps, this one right here is the fasten seat belt. You can see that one is a yellow and purple with green, and then the other one, that's the other idiot light, is a default. It's like purple and green or something like that. But I think that is a it's not a fasten seatbelt, but it's like an ignition light, just kind of idiot light to let you know that the engine's running or that the ignition is in. So you have to set those up first. You can see because they're on the bottom, and you're not going to be able to jack with them later. So if you're connecting the lights, put the lights in first. That's the first thing in the sequence. Line those up, get your wires right, and put your lamps in first. Right. Then the next thing you need to do is to connect these controls. Now, the backs of these controls have a nut. See that? It's kind of a tubular shaped nut. If you've taken this apart all the way to the point where this back piece has been removed, you have to connect this flange first, because you won't be able to get those nuts in. I don't know if you can see, those nuts go almost to the top of that edge right there, and so these two pieces, when they come together, you won't be able to mess with those nuts anymore. So you have to put this flange that has the light on it in first, and then put the nuts on, and then you see I'm missing a nut right there because I'm just missing it. But it'll run fine with the two nuts. But you have to put those nuts on first, because when you install this shaft, this back plate that is on that shaft will make it so you can't get to those nuts anymore. So that's the next thing in the sequence. So then when you get ready to install these shafts, you can see there's 4 little holes, and on the top and the bottom on the back plate there's a nut. It's like a little nub that goes into those holes, and that keeps it from turning once you get it tight. the center shaft there, those nuts that are on there, they're kind of, you know, they're in a well, so it's hard to get to. You can't use a wrench, but you can use a deep well socket, and that fits right on there just fine. You see that? It just tightens right on. This is a let's see if we can figure it out. This is a 5/8. That light's glaring on that, but you can see it's a 5/8 deep well socket. And you can get that right on there and tighten those up by hand. You don't need to put a whole lot of torque on those. Again, it's really easy. You can relax the slack from that cable, the black cable that goes to the heater control that's on the intake manifold, and that gives you a little bit of slack this way, but this one you can't. Now, I did a little bit of customization on mine. We're not putting the radio back in. I've made this this charging box. We're gonna make it so you can put your phones in here. It has a little USB connector. That USB connector I've installed right up here, and it has a couple of USB cables that connect to the back of it. But the thing is that you can't put it in this way. It has to come in from the back side. So you guessed it, the whole dash needs to be suspended in order to do that. So I've got a gap here for the dash so that I can install this thing, slide it in, push it back into the radio slot, and then push it in from the front. I'm going to put the cables in. That's kind of a two-hand job. But what I did on this to facilitate that, because once you get everything kind of in place, once it's all in place, you can't get a screw or a bolt back in to tighten the screws. These screws right here go through these holes right here, and I've made this custom bezel right here with the hole that matches up as well. So the screws need to go through these little holes, and you can't get anything on the nut to tighten it. So what I've done on this is I've gone into the kitchen and I heated up the nuts. I don't know if you can see. I heated up the nuts and melted them right into the plastic. So you won't need a washer, you won't need anything. You won't even need a wrench. All you need to do is get them into place, and by melting those into place, they're not going to move around, and they'll be set in place so that I don't have to worry about applying a wrench to the back side of that. What it does do is it makes it just a little bit tricky. These are special screws. They don't have a slot. They're not Phillips. They have these little knobbies on it. So you have to use a spanner in order to tighten them. But small price to pay for aesthetics. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and slide this baby in there and tighten everything up, and then show you what it looks like after the end of the fact. Alright, so the last little thing to know about this center console here is how these little knobs go on. There's no screws or fasteners or anything that holds it on. It's actually a little spring. You see this little hole right here? That little hole lines up with that little knob right there. This little knob is spring loaded. You can see if you look on the back side, it activates with a spring, right? So basically, when you have this knob in place and you want to get it off, you push in that little knob from that little hole, and that will make it so that it can slide off of the shaft. So that's actually the first step, and it's the last step in installing these. I'm going to buy some new knobs. I don't like the way this one's all scratched up, but we're going to get some new ones and we'll put them on there and make it look nice and clean. But the first thing that you need to do, and just kind of a review here on the center console, is you push in the little hole. You push in the little hole so that it depresses that knob, and that allows you to slide the knob off the shaft. Once you have the shaft exposed, you take a 5/8 inch deep well socket and you back off that little nut. And same thing on this side. back off the nut. Once you got that done, these controls will fall away. They'll fall into the dash, and you can slide the center console out. It has a couple of screw holes on the back side. That's easy enough to figure out. But the trick is this part right here. You got to take the knobs off first. You do that by depressing that little hole. Then you take off the nuts on the inside of the shaft. These controls will fall forward, and then you can pull it forward enough to get all the rest of the wiring and everything off. For whatever reason, if you're messing with the radio or if you're messing with the idiot lights, whatever it takes. But that's the trick. And this is a quick little video on the center console of a 1977 MGB. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments. If it's something I can't answer, I'm sure someone else who's got more experience can help out. Like always, if you have anything at all, just check it out. I'm sure I have other videos on it. I'd be glad to take something apart even if you want. But that's all I have today. Have a good one. Cheers.